Hello, I'm Charles and welcome to day 10, I believe, of my 30-day challenge to do 30 blogs in 30 days. I'm back from a rather interesting and transformational trip that I made to Stockholm yesterday, where I was looking at my business vision. Ultimately, it was looking at how I pin down exactly where it is that I add value. I understand how I add value, but I didn't understand exactly where it was. How to say to people, this is what I do for you. I'll be sharing with you over the next coming days. Today, I want to talk about the voices that we have inside our head. Now, these aren't voices that you can hear, but they are just, there's something there that tells you to do something. So this can happen at a couple of levels. So at the first level, it's often something just saying, that doesn't feel right, that's not right, that's not going to work, you're not going to be able to do that. That's instinct. It's instinct, intuition, it's your gut feel. That's helpful. I think you need to follow that. That is something that we all have in us, and we shouldn't underestimate the value that has. I certainly don't. My intuition is off the radar. If I sense that something's going to happen, it generally does. And I think that if you don't follow your intuition, you often have regret later on. The next the next scenario that some people have is that they don't feel confident. They don't believe that they can fulfill something, and they think, I don't feel comfortable in that situation. I'm not prepared to do it. I'm not prepared to put myself through it. Now, confidence is something that you can work through. You speak to people, you practice, you become more familiar with environments, and your confidence grows. Then there's something else. There is the scenario where you tell yourself that actually you're not good enough to do something, that you don't deserve something, that you haven't earned the right to do something, that something is just plain impossible. Maybe you challenge yourself at every step and you overanalyze. That can be quite destructive, certainly in the business world, and in your personal life, that can also be very destructive indeed, and it can prevent you from moving forward. It's very important to address this, and ultimately what it is you're being bullied. You're being bullied by yourself. Your mind is one of the most powerful tools that there is, and the thing about your mind is that when it comes to yourself, your mind knows you. So if it wants to challenge you, if it wants to hit you up about how exactly you are weak, or it perceives you as weak, you can hit yourself up there. You can say, it'll be specific for each person, but basically it'll know the nerves to push, and it'll continue to push them again and again. Ultimately, you make the decisions of what goes on in your mind, and if you are unable to manage it yourself, then you should work with other people, speak to other people, and see how you can move forward so that you no longer bully yourself. Now, one of the great things about people that are bullies to themselves, I believe, is that actually, if you harness the energy and the power and the strength that is in your mind to be a self-bully, and you project that back into your business, back onto yourself, on the positive side of things, I reckon that could be quite powerful. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not an expert in this field, but I just feel that the strength and power that that self-bullies have is massive. People that are actual bullies and that bully other people, that I generally see as their own weakness, and they're just trying to project that onto other people. But people that bully themselves, they own that power. People who are actually self-bullies actually become experts at hiding themselves. They become experts at protecting themselves, and they build a barrier around them so that any risk to them is blocked out. Any risk to them being caught is overseen. And this can make it particularly difficult to identify. But if you can overcome it, your business environment will benefit. Self-bullies tend to keep it to themselves. However, sometimes it becomes a bit too much and it overspills onto the people around them. They kind of project their thoughts and why they can't and shouldn't be successful onto others. That's called negativity and is often badly received. However, the fact of the matter is people who bully themselves, they actually need other people's guidance, other people's support to make it through. So when people are negative towards you, please don't just dismiss them. Guide them through, bring them back. So my question to those of you listening is, do you have an inner bully? If you do, it's time to show it the door. It's time to move on and to be you. Let's call it You Unleashed. I guarantee that will be a very, very powerful you. I hope that has been helpful to you. I would like to move on to the subject of art. As you can see behind me, I have a painting which is one of my favorite pieces. I bought this in Colombia. Let me tell you the story about how I brought it home actually. An oil canvas is pretty hard to bring back mounted on its frame. So I had the gallery take it off, roll it up, and I basically came back through the airport with it under my arm. Now, there's nothing particularly untoward about that, but alongside that, flying from Bogota back to London, I also had 2 kilos of powder in my suitcase. One of them was a kilo of coffee, and the other one was a kilo of white powder. As you can imagine, I was quite nervous about doing this, and surely my intuition should have kicked in and said, this is asking for trouble. Ultimately, what it was my mother had requested that I brought back some sugar, some artificial sweetener called stevia or something like that, and which wasn't available at the time around Europe. So I said, yes, of course. So I came back with some coffee, which is traditionally used apparently to block out the smell for sniffer dogs of drugs, and some white powder to complement it as well. Turned out that I got through fine, but anyway, it was quite a nerve-wracking experience at the time. So getting back to the painting and the piece of art that's behind me, and the connection to what I've been speaking about, this piece of art actually commemorates one of the largest bank robberies that there was in Bogota. It was about $30 million, if I remember rightly, and happened about 25 years ago, so I'm told. This was one of the largest bank robberies, during which was considered to be an inside job. It was considered that people thought it was a game, that they were simply playing a system, and that nobody would really lose. But actually, games inside, things that go on inside your head, things that are unseen, they can hurt you. They can hurt other people. They're not a game. So this particular piece of art as well has some of the recovered Colombian peso notes attached to it as a collage. And these were the actual notes that were recovered from the robbery. So I'm a great fan of this piece. Traditionally, I wouldn't have a piece of art which had a cartoon character in it. As you can see, there is Scrooge right here. And given the nature of the character and the familiarity we all have with Scrooge, I thought it was actually very fitting, and actually it did work there. So thank you for tuning into my vlog today, and I shall be back with more insights in the subsequent days. Have a great weekend.